I'm Cheryl Barnes, and after hearing all these presentations, I feel like we've been asleep at the wheel, which is the name of a bluegrass band if you ever come to Kansas City. But nonetheless, this is where we started. We had positions back in the 70s, and then we found out that they were going to build an aqueduct in the green over here to take water from the Missouri River to western Kansas for farmers. And you could see a comparison of where the Ogallala Aquifer was depleted in the brown and red, and it got worse. The blue was okay, and don't never mind the arrows. That's just to show you how the overlay works. And then if you've ever been to Kansas, that is where you were. So the green circles here are crop circles. Those areas have been irrigated by the center pivot irrigation machines, which you may have seen. They're big, round, they go around. And they water. Where the land that hasn't been irrigated, you can see, is brown because there's not enough water to support that. And on the upper right-hand side is the Ogallala Aquifer, and you can see that goes through 7 states. And by depleting the aquifer, towns now have to drill new wells, families have to drill new wells, and there just isn't enough water for the kind of farming that they wanted to do. So add on that the Trans-Canada pipeline. We heard earlier that that's going to take oil from Canada down to Houston through the Ogallala Aquifer and get refined in Houston and then be shipped overseas. That helps the Canadian group, and in fact the Canada government just bought that pipeline. It doesn't do anything for the United States, so again, we're being put at risk for corporations. So we wondered, what were we thinking? We're thinking, holy cats. And then in addition, life is going on. We didn't think anybody would do these things. No one would pump water uphill for 360 miles and the cost of energy and how much it's going to evaporate, yada yada, we didn't think anybody would do these things. And then we didn't think that the farmers would be careless. And in fact, they just did a story recently on public radio, and this one farmer says, I'm going to pump all the water I want, by God, things that people say when they think it's their right. And then we didn't think anybody would jeopardize the resources of the Ogallala Aquifer because it is so important. Water is just so basic. So, whoops, did I go too far? And so we took a look at our positions. We stood up and said, well, holy cats, I can't do that. And we took a look at our positions, but unfortunately, they hadn't been updated since the 70s. The last time we all made signs and marched in the streets, you may remember that, some of you. Others of you, you're our children and our daughters, and get ready. Here we go again. But, and we wanted to work with the Kansas League of Women Voters and probably the Iowa League of Women Voters, but our position didn't allow us to do that. We had not gone through what Gretchen and her folks have gone through to do an ILO. In fact, when we said we wanted to do that, they said, we can't do that. And we said, well, water doesn't have boundaries. It goes where it goes. We have to be more flexible. So we did a study, and it couldn't be a state issue, because we said, well, what about the state? Can they help us with this? And they said, no, because at the last convention, we hadn't approved it as an issue to take. And we thought, well, this is just nuts. Why are we shooting ourselves in the foot? We have these wonderful rules that makes the league so wonderful and our position so strong, but we needed to be more nimble. So that was an issue. So we put together a study group. We reviewed our old position. We did like the world's fastest study. We brought it back to our group, and they said, we think that old position was pretty solid. So you can add the word metropolitan, and that will let you cross state lines because it affected all of us. But to their credit, we were able then to move and to affect change. But it just goes to show that we need to form things like ILOs. We need to be working with our sister leagues. We need to take a broader view because it's just not in our wheelhouse. Things are coming at us from all sorts of places. So the sky is falling. We need to be prepared for things. We need to say, what is the worst thing that could happen? Because it truly is. Who knew we would have an EPA administrator who was put there to dismantle the agency, which is the only thing that protects us? Holy cats. We just really have to think worst case scenario and be prepared to move in that direction. And when they say you're being shrill, well, there's a reason for that. And so on a hopeful note, I always end with Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world, and that is you all. And then the other is, how about it, sisters and brothers? Thank you.